Welcome back everyone to Data Science for Everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Spark DataFrames, and particularly we're going to be reviewing everything that we've covered in the last few episodes. So let's get ready. Okay, so today we're going to be covering just a big review of all the things that we've learned up to this point. So let's kind of just start off. I'm going to show my files here for a minute. We're going to be utilizing the Walmart stock.csv dataset. So let's go on and start off making our session. So from PySpark.sql import Spark session. And then we're also going to set up a Spark instance. So let's do Spark session.builder.app name. And then this is going to be Walmart, and I'm just going to name it Walmart stock. And we're going to get or create. We'll let that run. Whoops. Why did it not? Oh, whoops. Get or create. There we go. Now, the first thing we are going to need to do is make sure to import our data. So we'll just call this the basic df for data frame, spark.csv, or read.csv, and then we're going to grab the Walmart stock.csv data. We want to make sure that we tell it that it has a header, and we want to make sure and infer the schema is true as well. And then after this, again, the most important thing once we've always imported the data is to double check what's going on with the data. So let's make sure and grab the column names. And so here we have a list. We see that they are all capitalized. They have date, open, high, low, close, volume, and adjusted close. Maybe later on we would want to change these once we import them into something like pandas or anything, but for now we're just going to keep them the way that they are. There aren't any spaces that we see, so it looks nice and clean. Then let's also make sure to print the schema to make sure that nothing actually went wrong whenever it was importing the data, and it's something that we actually believe that it should be. Now I see here that one issue that we may have is that this date here did not actually print out as a date, time, or a timestamp object. So that may actually be an issue for us in the future. But we will just move on right now and just assume that it'll be okay for now. And you know what? We can maybe run this one more time to see if it's going to change anything, and it shouldn't. But we never know. No, and still keeps it as a string. So the next thing we want to do is let's just check the first 5 rows. Okay, so we check out the head, and let's say we want 5. And so we can see here that yes, this is in some sort of date format, but the inference for some reason did not find that. Okay, everything else seems to be in a double format except for volume, which was nice because it is an integer. Next, let's also maybe grab out the descriptive statistics. So let's do something like df.describe, and then the important thing here is .show. So we run this, and now we see here that we have all of our summary statistics. Everything seems to be okay, again, except for the date, because it is a string object. So a couple things that we need to maybe take care of then, okay, is let's actually look at the schema itself on this object, okay? So let's do df.describe and then let's do print schema. Now we see here again, everything is a string. So this is a big problem for us. So we need to make sure that we actually go through and correct this. Now, again, particularly if we want to interact with this table later on. So let's do that by grabbing from PySpark .sql.functions we want to import the format number, okay? And we want to do something first. First, we actually need to save this whole section here, okay, the df.describe as our result. And so we'll do df.describe, and make sure, again, that you are just using the .describe, okay? You're not using .show, you're not using anything else after that. And then from here, we need to actually use our number formatting. Now there are a couple different ways that we can do this, but let's do this as res, and we want to select our result, and we want, oh, not result, we want res. We want summary, and I'm going to put this in a little bit cleaner format. So then we want format number, and then we are going to want res open. You know what, for the sake of clarity for myself, I'm going to add in another line here, and I want to do df.describe.columns, so I can see them just in a nice little list format here. Now we need to also cast this, okay, as a float. And then we want to round this to the second decimal place. And then we are also going to, what else do we want to do here? We want to make this an alias. So .alias open. And you know what? I'm going to move that on down there so it looks nice and clean. Comma, and then you know what? We're going to copy this, and then we're going to change each of these in turn. So this is going to be high and high, and then we're going to do low, oh, not float, and low. Then we'll also need close, and then what's the last one that we want to do here? We want, actually we don't need to use even the format number for this one, since we want res and we want our volume. Oh, need the right volume. And then we do cast, and here we're going to use it as an int because we want to keep it as an int .alias. And then we're going to keep it as volume. So just a reminder here, whenever we are running each of these in turn, oh, and this is actually not equal to, this is dot in here. The reason that we're using the alias each time, because each time we cast these, or we change these and we cast these as a formatted number, there's going to be extra wording on the end there, and we want to still keep this alias as simple as possible here. We're not going to worry about the date right now. So now let's do .show. And notice now we have a nice looking table. Everything is formatted correctly. And if we compare that up to here, again, notice this is very, very clean here. And since we're also using the select method, we're also dropping out the date, because again, it doesn't make any sense for us to be doing descriptive statistics on a date anyways. So this is significantly cleaner than what we had previously. Now let's actually create the HV ratio. So we want to do the high price versus the low price, or versus the volume of trade, sorry. So the high versus the volume. So let's do df2, and here we're going to do our data frame with column, and then we're going to call this HV ratio. And we have the high, and then we want to divide that out by the volume. Okay, and I'm going to run this, but here in a second we want to, let's just run this really quickly here, and let's do df2.show so you guys can see what this looks like. Now notice everything is still in that high format here, and again, notice here how big or technically small this number is here. It's e to the -6. But maybe we want to only see our first row. So let's, or the row that we created. So df2.select. And here we want the HV ratio. And again, here we see that this is, again, these nice tiny numbers, and it's relatively clean. So what, what was maybe our peak price? Okay, so now we're going to start looking at and utilizing our order by statements. So this is going back to probably the first part of the series that we were talking about. And so what is the peak high in our price category? So let's do df.orderby, df.high.descend. And you know what? I think we're probably going to run into an error here very soon. And we actually didn't run into any error because it's actually not utilizing our timestamp objects like I was thinking about. But notice here we actually have the date of our of the high for our data set. We can also go through and, for example, let's grab the mean of what of the close. So from PySpark.sql functions import mean, and then we want df.select, and then we want the mean of close. And so we see here that our average close is going to be 72.38, and again we could use the format number here to clean this up if we so chose. And now let's go on to the next selection here, and let's grab the min and max of our volume. So again, PySpark, whoops, not PySpark, from PySpark.sql.functions import max min. So df.select, and we will do this nice and easy like so. Max, whoops, we do volume, min, volume, and then we do .show. Here, and we see here now we have the min and we have our max of our volume as well. And again, this would work out for any of our close, or any of the other columns that we so choose. And so then now let's maybe go through and let's actually look at our summary statistics really quickly. And I want to see about what our averages are here. So mean, here's our min, here's our maxes. Okay, so let's go about using some filtering techniques. Now we'll do a couple of these. So let's say df.filter, and we want to check the close that's less than 60, and then we need to use the count method. Notice that gives us 81. Now we can also do this in a similar way, but I think this is probably the clearest format, so I'm just going to stick with this particular format. Now let's also look at, we can use the, no, I still like this particular method better, but we can, I would like to show you guys actually the, using this with a PySpark Sql function as well. So PySpark.sql.functions import count. And then we can do this as well. We can do something like, again, it's a little bit more long-winded, but we can still do it. So df.filter, and we want close is less than 60. And then on top of this, then we can do res.select, and then we would do count of our close dot show. I notice this gives us a very similar type answer, but however, this is actually in a data frame setting, whereas this is just the number itself. It just depends on what type of format you really want this to pop out as. Now, let's see if we can do this, another one here in just a couple different ways. Let's say that we want to grab what percentage of our time was where the high was greater than $80. So let's just do this in a relatively simple manner. So let's do df.filter. And we want where our high was greater than 80. And we want to count. And then we also need to do this as a percentage. So multiply by 1.0 divided by our df.count. And let's run this to see what we have here. Okay, and so then if we want this to be, this is actually, we get 9.14%, but let's say that we want this a little bit cleaner. Okay, so if we wrap this and then we multiply it by, let's say, 100, here, now we actually get this in a more readable percent, again, where we get 9.4. It just depends on what format you want. You can multiply it by the 100. Now, let's also do a correlation. So let's see here, from Spark Functions, import the correlation function, df.select here, and we want to do the correlation of the high to the volume. And here we see that there is a negative correlation. It's not very large negative correlation between the highs and the volume. And so now let's use something like a little bit of the group by function. So let's grab the highs per year from Spark Sql Functions, import year. And let's do year df is equal to df.with column year df date. And I'm hoping we're not going to get an error. All right, so then now let's do max df is equal to year df dot group by, and then we're going to grab it by year dot max. Now let's do one more selection here, and let's see of max df dot select, and then we want our year and our max high dot show. All right, and so now we actually see here that 2015 was our max high. We can also just so that we can kind of look at what the max data frame looked like. Some of you are probably curious. Oops. Dot show. And so you can see here it actually grabbed all of the maxes for everything. So we didn't necessarily have to grab and look for the max of the high. We could have looked for the adjusted close. We could have looked for all other types of things. Like usually whenever we're talking about stock prediction and everything, a lot of people like to look at the adjusted close. So now let's look at maybe one more example and look at the average close per month. So from Spark.sql.functions, import month. And so then this is going to be basically the same format as what we had before. So month data frame is equal to df dot with column. We want month. Month on our date. And then so let's do month averages is going to be month data frame dot select, and we want month. We want close. We want group by month, and we want the mean of each of those. And then let's do something like month averages dot select, and again here we want to grab month. We also want to grab the average close dot order by here, and we want month dot show. And so then here we see that the monthly averages is actually for the close is actually going to be pretty straightforward. There's actually seems to be a relative upward trend that peaks in July, and then it kind of goes back down a little bit. So I hope this was actually helpful to you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this, please subscribe and hit a link down in the bottom, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.